Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. Happy birthday to everyone, and welcome if you are new and you are not familiar with our birthday shenanigans. My name is Dr. Ray. I'm a small animal general practitioner, and I have this channel where I answer veterinary questions, pet related questions. So this channel is a beginner's approach to looking at a pet food label or looking at a pet food bag and trying to dissect out what is important, what is superfluous, and what are the things that we need to be looking at a very first line, very first level approach. And so if you want to learn the very basics of understanding pet food labels and the very basics of what you need to be looking for, this is the channel for you. If you want a college education tutorial on the dynamics of pet nutrition and nutrients and ingredients and things like that, that is beyond the scope of this channel and this video. And so if you want to come hang out with me and have fun and relax and just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg, that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be doing that with a food called Wholesomes, and it's going to be the Wholesomes sensitive stomach and skin, the salmon protein recipe. And so we're going to be working through this food. The website, if you want to follow along, is wholesomespetfood.com, and we're going to be working through it in a very logical way, using very logical and concrete parameters. And so to do that, we're going to use what I like to call the Doctorate's pet food scoring system. I have this wonderful little scorecard that I have put together. If you want to follow along with the fun, that's what we're going to be doing today. So a very logical approach. We're going to evaluate, on this channel, all the foods in this, in this manner. Now, if you look at any of my earlier videos, which are totally cringeworthy, me looking back at them now, you will notice that I do not have this system, and I really do need to go back in time and apply the point system to those foods. But you'll notice some of my videos do not have that, but you still can work through them in this manner, as you can work through any food in this manner. And so we're going to use this point scoring system, 10 points total. Theoretically, at least in my mind, the closer you get to 10, the better, or the more more meeting the mark, more the bones of the food are there, the closer you get to 10. Usually I feel like a 7, 8, 9, or 10 is going to be a good food. Anything less than that, I feel like there's been some significant deductions that maybe we might want to look elsewhere. But before changing any food or using any food as a means to treat a disease of your pet, or if your pet's not doing well, those are certainly discussions to have with your personal veterinarian. So please don't, I do not make food recommendations. I do not make medical advice on this channel. I simply want to teach you how to logically approach pet food, and then maybe bring that logical approach or those educated questions to your veterinarian, and ask them, so that you guys can have, a dialogue that is worthwhile. And so we're going to do that with Wholesomes today. I emailed the company and I got some additional information that we needed that was not available on the website. But after that, I have not looked into this food any further, so I will be just as surprised at the score at the end as you are. So I'm going to point out some of the marketing things, we're going to pull out some of the important things, and we're going to get started. So here you've got the front of the pack. I really like the simplicity of it. It's Wholesomes, and it says right there, sensitive skin and stomach with salmon protein. Now, the term with it's on there specifically because there is a legal definition to that. I don't remember off the top of my head what that is, but I'll pop it up here so that you know that term with actually means something, and it's put on this bag with specific purpose. And so with salmon protein. Sensitive skin and stomach. Now that right there actually has has no legal meaning. They're putting that there specifically to draw into a certain group of people that maybe is trying to use food to manage a certain disease, maybe allergies, maybe GI upset, maybe a flaky coat. It's very important that you understand that these foods really your dog may do good on a certain food or may do good on a different food, and that's perfectly fine. But this food is not, let's say, a food trial if your dog truly has a food allergy. So be careful with that. And as we go through the ingredient list, there may be some keys that we can discuss there. Why, maybe that terminology, sensitive skin and stomach, could be a little bit deceiving or misleading. Now, it's not to say this is a bad food, but I see where they're headed. They're headed to appeal to people that maybe are trying to use this food as a medical management to certain diseases, and that may not be completely appropriate. So that's kind of the front of the package. I cannot read, it's very small here, so I cannot read what these little call arts are, but I will say that it does say here for dogs and puppies. And so that's alluding to one of the point worthy aspects of the Doctorate's pet food scoring system. And it alludes to the life stage that this food is targeted for, and we'll get more into that when we get there. Let's read some of the other things. Just like people, some dogs can struggle with digestive health. An easy fix could be as simple as switching food. Protein was formulated with care to help your dog stay on a positive course of health throughout all stages of life. Again, right there it is, that all stages of life buzzword, which they're trying to market as good, but I will show you later on how maybe that is not ideal. It's packed with easily digestible proteins, quality sources of fiber, and salmon dog food for sensitive stomachs, and will support any puppy or adult's dietary needs. That is not necessarily wrong. I mean, it very well may do that, but I do get a little bit worried when they are trying to market this as a medical management to disease, because it says that the digestive health may be an easy fix and just could be achieved with a simple switch of food. I wish it was that simple in a lot of cases. And I will say this, totally off topic, but not really off topic, because you may find yourself here watching this video because you are having a specific digestive issue with your pet. If you are going to change the food, and you want to do that before you jump into a whole workup with your veterinarian, be careful to wait an acceptable amount of time in between changing foods. So really a transition between pet food should be done over a couple of weeks. If not, you could make those dietary issues worse. So please do it over a couple weeks. And if you make a change of food, so let's say you're feeding one diet and you're like, I don't know, it's just not agreeing with them, they're having really bad issues with diarrhea or vomiting, and you do that switch and you go to the new food, you need to let that food work its magic for several weeks. So you can't just do it for a week and then say, this isn't working, I'm going to change to another food. If your pet is doing that poorly that you're thinking, look, I need to make another change, that next change needs to be done with a discussion with your vet, because although it's very easy, and some people do luck out and they make the change and it does do the trick, I see far too many cases in my practice where we've seen multiple diet changes, and it ends up that the pet has diabetes, or the pet has a pancreatic insufficiency or pancreatitis or a digestion, disorder that needed medical management outside of nutrition. Sure, nutrition can play a part in it, but there are certain diseases, parvovirus, that need to be treated in a different manner. So if you're going to do that, and I will wrap up this soapbox right here, make one change. If it's not working or your pet is worsening, please do not make multiple changes, because that can muddy the water and really delay treatment. So totally not related to Wholesomes. I'm not making them a bad guy. It's just when I see that, those things come to my mind as a veterinarian, and things that I would think of if you were my patient personally. So anyway, made in the USA, very nice. Let's see what's inside. Let's jump in. Ingredients are part of the pet food scoring system. They get 1 point if it's not grain-free, and 1 point if it's not raw. Grain-free and raw are not recommended to the general population. Grain-free, I have a video on that. Feel free to watch it. I'm not going to go through it. I don't have a video on raw, but in general, raw is not recommended for the general population. It may be something that is appropriate for your pet, but that's not the scope of this channel. This channel is for the populace. This is a general channel. And so, those questions specifically about raw, is raw right for my pet, or is grain-free right for my pet, that needs to be addressed with your specific veterinarian. So on this channel, they get a point if it's not grain-free and a point if it's not raw, because that's generally acceptable and recommended by the veterinary community for the general population. So here we've got salmon meal, brown rice, oatmeal, pearled barley, ground rice, canola oil, rice bran, white fish meal. We got some yeast, beet pulp. Okay. Yeah, so it does, and on this ingredient list, obviously it's not grain free or raw. They're going to get 2 points here. They are listing, the main protein sources here as salmon or fish. And so it may be that if your pet has a minor allergy, this may be suitable because they're not listing, any other proteins here. So like they're not listing beef fat, they're not listing poultry on here. But the caveat is this food is processed in a plant, most likely with other foods. They make other foods, right? They make other foods with other protein sources. And so a lot of the diets that we use for dogs that have severe allergies, skin allergies or food allergies, we're going to use a hydrolyzed diet because the proteins are actually changed. The size of the proteins are actually changed so that they're non-allergenic. But if you're using just a limited ingredient diet, it is very, very, very important if you have a very allergic animal or a very strict allergic animal, that it can't even be processed in a plant with other proteins. So similar to people, like they can't eat anything, like if they're allergic to peanuts or shellfish, like they can't come anywhere near a peanut or shellfish. They can't eat a food that was processed in a plant with peanuts and shellfish. And so kind of the same idea here. So a really, severe allergy may not be able to use this food even though the ingredient list looks like it's limited because this food is processed in a plant with other proteins that are not, salmon. So I don't know if that makes sense. Totally a tangent. It has nothing to do with the pet food scoring system to get their 2 points, but I just wanted to point that out. Over here we got the calorie content at 355 kcals per cup. We are going to need that later. I'm actually going to write that down. We're going to need that later when we calculate the resting energy requirement and see if they're on point for that. This food is 3,485 kcals per kilogram. That is going to be important for making sure that this is comparable to the standards, and we're going to get into that right now. Now it needs to be close to 4,000 or below. This is, so we can use our standards from the text to go through this food. Okay. So here's the guaranteed analysis, and this is what I want to point out to you guys, especially to some of you guys that may be new here. The guaranteed analysis is what's listed on the package. It's also what's listed on a lot of these websites. And that is, that's fine. They have to do that. They're required to do that. But if you will look here, we've got minimums and maximums listed, and they're not even listing everything that we want. So a minimum and a maximum means there's a lot of wiggle room here. This is not a definitive, and I think they do that because, they can't, there are variations, right? And so they don't want to hold a company legally responsible for false advertising, most likely. So they allow them to put minimums and maximums here to most likely account for that variability. But we don't want that. We don't want minimums and maximums. We want to know exact, close to exact as possible. And the other important thing is we want food here that is on a dry matter basis. And so these guaranteed analysis are on an as-fed basis. So this is with the moisture in the food. And so even dry dog food has moisture in it. You can see that here. It's saying that this food is 10% moisture. The standards are on a dry matter basis so that all foods can be evaluated in comparison to each other. And so this food may be 10%, another food may be 12%. Canned food is way more. Canned food is 80%. I have a video on how you convert to dry matter basis, especially for canned. But that could be a way, like let's say you can't contact the company, they're not getting back to you. You can use this moisture content and convert this guaranteed analysis to dry matter basis. Kind of as a way to do that if you want to do it at home, if maybe the company's not responsive, or you just don't have the time to wait for those answers. But I did that for you. I emailed the company and I got the information. So we're going to use that information as we work through it today, and then we'll get to that feeding guide. So far, just to recap, we're on 2 points because we're okay on the ingredient list. So let's pull up our chart. This is saying that it's a dog food. It's saying a dog and puppy food. But we will know soon that that's not appropriate. We want to be one or the other. We can't be both. You can be a puppy, you can be a dog that feels like a puppy, but you can't be the life stage of a dog and a puppy at the same time. And that just doesn't make sense, at least from a veterinary standpoint and a nutritional, requirement standpoint. So let's see here. I'm going to show you why. We got the puppy chart here, and then I'm going to show you. These are the nutritional requirements for a puppy, and a puppy, is a dog less than 9 months old. I would consider a puppy. 9 to 12 months is in that wobbler stage. And then here is the nutrient profiles, and these are optimal nutrient profiles from the text Small Animal Clinical Nutrition. I have a free link below. You can go ahead and read through the, some of the chapters there. There's some excellent charts there, and that is kind of the text that I use as a reference. That way you guys also have access to it. I do pull a lot of the information that I share with you guys from my personal lectures as a veterinarian, and I've been a veterinarian for 15 years, so I might still have that, my actual textbook or my lecture notes. I'll have to look for them, but I also learn from conferences and continuing education, so I don't have that to share with you, but I do have this textbook, and so I do try to make sure that I reference that so you guys can look that up as well. But these charts come from Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, not the actual chart. I put these numbers in, a more contrasty chart for you, but you can see the difference. So a puppy needs protein between 22 and 35, but an adult dog only needs it between 15 and 30. That's what's optimal. Calcium, and you'll see here, this is where the biggest difference is. A puppy needs to be acceptable between 0.7 and 1.7, but an adult is going to be much less. Same thing with phosphorus, much less. Fat in a puppy, 10 to 25%. They need the fat for growth. Fat is where they get their energy. They're burning energy with their playing and they're running around and being super cute. They need higher fat for that. They don't need higher protein from that, which is a common misconception. The energy is derived from fat. And so 10 to 25%, where an adult dog, they're going to max out at 20. So you can see there is a difference. Now, certainly there is some overlap here, and that's what they're doing when they're doing an all life stage. But optimal, it's going to be hard to be both. So maybe we'll check this out and we'll see, I don't know that I've ever done that on the channel before. We're going to see where it stacks up for both. So again, we're not going to use this guaranteed analysis here, so I'm just going to cover that up. And we're going to put these two things side by side, and then I'll pop up on the screen the numbers that I got from Wholesomes. Okay, so on a dry matter basis, Wholesome is 25% protein, 13% fat, 5.4% fiber, 1.3 calcium, and 1.1 on phosphorus. And so if we're rating this as a dry dog food, and for the scoring system, that's what we're going to do. And I need to start a new page here. We've so far got 2 points for the ingredient list. Follow along on your scorecard. So they are going to get, as an adult, protein at 25% is going to be good, so they're going to get a point there. Fat at 13%, they're going to get a point there. Fiber should be less than 5. They're going to lose a point there because their fiber is a little bit high at 5.4. Calcium at 1.3 is excessive. They're going to lose a point there. And the phosphorus at 1.1 is excessive, so they're going to lose a point there. So they're only going to get 2 points as an adult, which is what this food is really marketed for. They're going to lose quite a bit of points on the guaranteed analysis, which is, not optimal. Absolutely not optimal. Suboptimal. I used to have a professor in vet school, orthopedic surgeon. He was German, and he would always say whatever it was suboptimal in that German accent. And I just thought that was so very German of him. So if I have any viewers in Germany, I'm not making fun of you. I just always remember that, just always stuck in my head, suboptimal. Anyway, that's suboptimal. They're only getting 2 points there, which means they're not meeting the mark from the established text on nutrient parameters for the adult. But let's go back and let's look at it for the puppy. So let's see if this was a puppy food, or if we were feeding this as an all life stage for puppy. Let's see if it's going to meet the mark. So let me draw a line here. So they still get 2 points for the ingredient list if this was a puppy food. Protein 25%, they would get a point there. Fat at 13%, they would get a point there. Fiber, they're going to get a point because there's not really an established for fiber in puppies, so I always give it to them. So they're going to get a point there. Calcium at 1.3, they're going to get a point there. and phosphorus at 1.1, they're going to get a point there. So you can see the difference here. This is an all life stage food, but when you follow the optimal, not the acceptable, because it's completely acceptable. That's why they can, they can do this. It's legally acceptable, but optimal based on the text. This food is completely suboptimal for an adult, but completely awesome for a puppy. So 5 points on the guaranteed analysis for the puppy. So for a puppy, this food's right now scoring a 7, but for an adult dog, it's only scoring a 4. So that gives you a little bit of perspective on why I'm not a fan of the all life stage. Because one size doesn't, it doesn't fit all, clearly. Okay. Feeding guidelines, food for dogs and puppies. This is just talking about that, but let's go to the actual feeding chart, and then we will go over here to the AFCO statement. Actually, let's do the AFCO statement first. So the AFCO statement is a legal statement. It needs to be on all packages here in the U.S. And they can't. There's very little. They can't get creative here. There's a very specific verbiage they have to follow. And okay, had to make a quick camera change because battery died on this guy, and we're low budget, and I only have one battery. And actually, I just paid off this camera, so I can't buy another battery yet. So anyway, hopefully it's not too not cohesive for you guys. So anyway, we're back here. And what was I saying? Oh yes. So here we have the AFCO statement, and so it says wholesome, sensitive skin and stomach with salmon. They've got to have the legal name there. Is formulated to meet the nutritional levels by AFCO dog nutrient profiles for all life stages, including the growth of large-sized dogs that will be 70 pounds or more as an adult. And so the things that we're looking for is this word right here, formulated. That means that they took a formula. Maybe it was predetermined by the company. Maybe it was determined by another company. Maybe they found it on the internet. We don't know. They took a formula. They made the food. They did not test the food. They did not feed the food to dogs. They did not see how dogs did. And so it was not feeding trialed. So they lose a point there, and they're going to lose a point for both the adult and the puppy. They're not going to get that point. Now, the bottom section is the section where it talks about that all life stages, what we were talking about earlier, and they're going to both lose a point there, because not only is this not an adult food, and we saw why in the guaranteed analysis, this is not technically even a puppy food, even though it does look good on the numbers. And again, with the point scoring system, you can add or subtract. It's not a flawless system, and so feel free to tell me how you would score it. But technically, they lose a point here as well, because this is a large breed puppy, not just a regular puppy. And I didn't put the large breed puppy parameters up there, but I do have some other videos with that and a couple shorts on that, and you can see how it stacks up maybe against that as well. So they're going to lose 2 points on the AFCO statement. So we're going to be so far at a 7 if you were feeding this as a puppy food, and we're stuck at a 4 if you're feeding this as an adult. Now we're going to get into the feeding guides. So far it's pretty good as a puppy food. I think if we get another point there, an 8th point there, we're pretty happy at this point. But the dog version, the adult version, I'm not really sure that it's redeemable in my eyes at this point. But again, don't go running out changing your dog's food based on my recommendation. Do talk to your vet before you do that. So let's get into the feeding guides. Now you can see when it's all life stages, it gets to be a bit convoluted. I don't like that. I don't like when there's a million charts here. It's just too much. So over here, how much to feed your adult dog daily? And if you remember, and I wrote it down, 355 kcals per cup. And so 20-pound dog, just, if you've been with me for a while, you know this, or you can check out my resting energy requirement video on how to calculate this, but there is a calculation for that. And so a 20-pound dog, if you work through the calculation, the resting energy requirement is about 366 kcals per day. There are multipliers there. I don't tend to use those, at least not as a starting point, because it's easier to give the dog more food than to be feeding the dog more and realize you should be feeding it less, and then they're mad at you, and it's a horrible experience for everybody. So 366 is what I like to feed a 20-pound dog. That's the resting energy requirement. That's a number that is a published calculation. You can find that in the clinical nutrition textbook as well, but you can also use a multiplier, and you can read through that chapter and learn more about that. But 366, so that what they're saying is 1.5 cups. 355 times 1.5, they're saying to feed 532, and you will find that that is correct. I am going to give them a point there for the adult, because if you use the multiplier, that is correct. And so again, I'll pop this chart up here. This is what an easy way to do it if you don't want to calculate it, and you can see that there is like this multiplier situation up, you know, in the corner over there, and you can do it that way if you want. But the long and the short of it is 20 pounds is 366 is the resting energy requirement. If you use the multiplier, it's 585, which puts them in range for the adult. Now, puppy, there's different ways to do it. I'm not going to do all of them just for time's sake, because we've already killed one battery today. But what we will do is we will pick, let's do 0 to 4 months. 0 to 4 months is you take the resting energy requirement. So for a 20-pound dog, we already know what that is, 366, and you multiply it by 3. So 366 times 3 is 1098. Should we give them a point for that? It's a little bit less. You know, the resting energy requirement of 20-pound puppy at 4 months or less is 1098. They're coming in at 946. You're probably giving your puppy treats. I know you're giving your puppy treats. So, you know, you got to potty train and all that. So, yeah, I'm going to give them the point in that. So, I'm going to give this an 8. This is pretty solid as, you know, as a puppy formula. They lost, and you can see how the, you know, this formula does, or the pet food scoring system does allow for a little bit of wiggle room. So you can see how they did lose completely, you know, all their points on the AFCO statement, but they're on point for everything else. And so it's going to get 8 points as a puppy formula, but unfortunately it's only going to get 5 points as an adult. And so, you know, you may take, you know, look at your inner self and, you know, determine what number you feel comfortable feeding your pet. So, you know, if you feel comfortable feeding, you know, a pet food scoring system that I totally made up of 5, then, you know, that might be okay for you as an adult. But I do feel like there were some, you know, demerits there, or negative points there that, you know, I would maybe dig maybe a little bit deeper and find out why that is, or why that, you know, might be appropriate for your specific pet. But the 8 on the puppy, I think, is a winner. And so, so yeah, that was the Wholesomes sensitive skin and stomach salmon protein, marketed for both dogs and puppies. Let's look at price, because I do like to do that with you guys. It's saying buy local, but you can also buy at Chewy and Tractor Supply. So let's just go to Chewy, because they're usually pretty good at having it readily available. Yeah, there it is. Price point's not too bad. Price point is not too bad. So for a 30-pound bag, it's $49. So you're looking at $1.64 a pound to feed this food. I think that's pretty reasonable. I actually asked you guys what would be considered a budget food on a poll I did, and you guys said anything, you know, like between $1 and $2 a pound, you guys would consider a budget food. So this may be a good budget option for a puppy. Doesn't list puppy on there, so, you know, you may not think of it as that, but it actually is, according to all stages, and working through the guaranteed analysis and some of the other parameters, is really appropriate for a puppy. So how about that? All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today and putting up with my shenanigans this purse day. And I will see you guys next purse day. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things, share with your friends, and we'll hang out again real soon. Bye.